There's a lot of people that last week after the Ravens and Chief game said the Ravens got too many illegal formation calls. Those are the reasons why they lost the game and put them behind the sticks. But in reality, on that first drive, after they get called for illegal formation 3 or 4 times, they go down the field and score six. That is my argument, which makes the penalties that they suffered early in that game pretty much irrelevant. Does it make it frustrating to play in? Yes. Very frustrating when you got a first down or whatever the case may be and it's coming back. But we've seen this with a lot of teams already. We've seen it in the Miami game. We saw it in the Eagles game. We saw it in a lot of games where guys are getting called for illegal formation. It just looks like the NFL we're gonna have this year. Um, they want all linemen to line up traditionally at the belt of the center. That's just kind of what we're living in. However, the Ravens had a good game. I still said that I liked a lot of things that I saw from the Ravens. I still liked Isaiah Likely and his production. I still liked what I saw from Zay Flowers. He showed that he is a stud wide receiver. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. He's going to do what he does, right? Because he's an MVP of this league. He can throw the football. He can run the football. He does it all. The biggest concern that I had, and I made it an emphasis, was Todd Monken. Todd Monken has one job right now, and that job is to utilize Derrick Henry and understand why did the Ravens bring in Derrick Henry. They brought him in so Lamar Jackson doesn't have to go into the harm's way of defenses and get hit. They got him so he can move the chains productively and allow the offense to do other things besides run the football. The running can go through Henry. We got Zay Flowers. We got Mark Andrews. We got Bateman. We got Likely. This is what needs to happen. Okay. However, in this Ravens game against the Raiders, it did not happen. Why? Same reason why they didn't win in week one. They didn't run the ball effectively enough or efficiently. I think Derrick Henry ended the game with about 18 carries. That's not enough. Now, Ravens organization and Todd Monken and everyone has come out and said, well, we're not going to run Derrick Henry 30 times a game. You don't need to. But 20 will do. 23, 25. If you can max out Derrick Henry's rush attempts to 25 a game and have it be semi-productive, you're looking at a different ball game every time. But what I mentioned last week in week one, and Todd Monken's problem right now is him trying to figure out how can I get this offense to be as fluid as possible. How can I get this offense to move the chains? How can I get Derrick Henry involved? How can I get Zay Flowers involved? How can I get Isaiah Likely involved? Mark Andrews involved? With nobody losing out or making our schemes look too predictable. So far, he hasn't been able to do that. So far, it seems to be the Lamar Jackson show. And what I mean by that, and it's not a slight to Lamar Jackson, what I mean by that is that this team is only going to go as far as Lamar Jackson can take them every single week if things don't change from now into the further future. If things don't change, this team is mediocre. This team is not going to be the team that people saw them being. Things that I took away from the game. I mean, can we run the ball a little bit? I'm saying we, just looking at it as a perspective of a Raven. I'm not a Raven fan, but I'm just saying you got to be looking at your teammates and saying, can we run the football? Can we do something besides what we're doing right now? There's two teams that are built to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. And that's the team that everyone has their bullseyes on and circles on their calendar. Obviously, the Ravens face them in week one. We know what happened. Obviously, the next time that they'll probably face off will be in a playoff series, in a playoff game, if it happens. There's only two teams that are constructed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's it. At least in the AFC. Those are the two teams that, on paper, can get to the quarterback, only rushing 4, have stud wide receivers, Dave Flowers, Jamar Chase, Scott Bateman, T. Higgins, although he has to come back from injury. The Bengals did have a run game that was significant with Joe Mixon. Obviously, now they have to see what their run game is really going to be defined by without Joe Mixon there. Both have good tight ends. Some might say great, some might say elite, some might say above average. Whatever the case may be, they have the weapons surrounding the team. They each have a quarterback, very, very different. Lamar Jackson is a dual threat quarterback who can run the football, throw the football, be effective, and tire out defenses. Joe Burrow is more of a traditional quarterback. He's going to stand in the pocket. He's going to deliver the football. He's going to take the easy stuff. He might move the chains with his legs here and there if he sees a gap and an opening, but he's not really trying to do that too much, right? The thing that makes them different now, and what made the Ravens coming into the season look like Super Bowl favorite contenders, was the fact that they got Derrick Henry. Now you have a running back that can move the chains. Now you have a running back that can, you can run on second and third. You can do all the little things instead of having to put your quarterback in harm's way or give up a scheme early on in a game to get a first down, right? The Ravens still haven't done this. The Ravens still haven't figured out how to utilize the run game with Derrick Henry. And it's sad to say, but if the Ravens don't demand that Derrick Henry learn to catch the football, Ravens is done. And I'm telling you that right now, week 2, if they cannot figure out a way to get Derrick Henry the football effectively, and he can also not catch the football on the most simplest routes to give Lamar Jackson that safety blanket, Ravens ain't going nowhere. Defensively, coming into the season, you're thinking about the number 1 team on defense just a year ago. Best team against the rush. Elite corners, good safeties, can get home with 4. And they look, Gardner Minshew. All right, let's take away from Gardner Minshew right now, right? Let's say Patrick Mahomes. Week 1, Patrick Mahomes has a mediocre day, gets a W, but it's not one of his best performances. He was 20 of 28. Gardner Minshew and the now Las Vegas Raiders threw for 30 of 38. Who are we allowing him to be? If you're the Ravens defense, who are we letting Gardner Minshew be right now on the field? It is insane the amount of time that Gardner Minshew had in the pocket. It was crazy the way that he was allowed to deliver the football over and over again to Devontae Adams, to Brock Bowers. It's like, what is going on right now with the Ravens defense? Forget the fact that you can't figure it out on offense. At least defensively, you can say, well, we can win this game defensively. They couldn't even do that. They couldn't do anything to make the Raiders feel like they couldn't win that football game. They didn't take the energy out of the Las Vegas Raiders. it was just back and forth. Lamar had a bad pick in the game. It is what it is. It's week 2, so a lot of people, a lot of quarterbacks aren't in their full form. Some may be a little bit more advanced than others. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had, I think, 2 bad picks on Sunday afternoon against the Bengals. So it is what it is. But Todd Monken has to figure it out. I said it last week. When you have Derrick Henry, your offense becomes predictable. Because now, being that Derrick Henry isn't somebody that you rely on to catch the ball or even to block a lot of the times, because he's not a great blocker. He's just a big man, but people get around him very, very quickly. When you take out Derrick Henry and you call in Justice Hill, you're telling the defense and the defensive coordinator on the other side, hey, I'm throwing the football here. That's why I'm bringing down my third down back. He can catch. I can throw him out there, make you play somebody on him. But now you're making it very, very easy for them to just run cover 2, just shell, or they'll cover 3. It becomes very, very easy to predict for defenses, and it's showing. Every time Derrick Henry comes off the field, they're throwing. Or Lamar could take off still, obviously, dual threat quarterback. Or when Derrick Henry's on the field, well, they're probably going to run. And if they're not, they're probably going to do some type of RPO. So let's prepare for those. Very predictable offense. You got to get Derrick Henry involved. You got to let him touch the ball in terms of rushing attempts a minimum of 22 times a game. That's it. He doesn't have to get 30. Minus it by 8, 22 times a game to 25 ratio, I would say. That is what has to happen. He has to be able to take the football and, move the chains. And there's going to be times, and the thing with the Ravens is that they also have to realize there's going to be times where the run gets stuffed. I mean, when he was in Tennessee, all they did was run. You knew what they were doing, and he was still able to go off. There was obvious times where the attempts weren't perfect, and you lose yardage, or you get stuffed at the line of scrimmage, or you gain a yard, but it's like, all right, that did nothing for us. Now it's 39. Things like that are gonna happen. It happens to every running back. This isn't something that just happens to a particular few. Every running back goes through it. Every running back gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Every running back, sometimes the play gets blown up and they get popped and you lose some yardage. It happens. But you got to be confident in your run game. You got to be confident in the offensive linemen to create those gaps for them. And you got to be able to also make Derrick Henry catch the football. I mean, he's a big man. He's basically in a tight end's body out there. Get him in there in the lab with Isaiah Likely. Get him in there in the lab with Mark Andrews. Hell, if he has to, get him in there with Zay Flowers. Get him in there running routes, learning to catch. We know he can run the football down 90 yards, take it, coast to coast. But that's not what you need of him in this offense. You need him to be able to be versatile. You need to be versatile. If you're not able to be, if you're one-dimensional, pretty much done. And all season, you're going to run into the same problems over and over and over. And although Lamar is buying in, and he threw for 34 times, only rushed 5 times for 45 yards, whatever the case may be, he also was 1 of 9 on passes over 20 yards. He has to get into that MVP form. You got to be able to, take the top off of defenses to enable your run game. As important as it is for Derrick Henry, as I've mentioned, to get those touches, to get those attempts per game, Lamar Jackson also has to be able to deliver the football down the field effectively and efficiently. 1 of 9, 20 yards plus isn't going to work. If you can be 4 or 5 of 9 for those type of throws, you're putting your offense in a better place overall. Unfortunate loss for the Ravens. Big, huge upset win for the Raiders. I mean, Devontae Adams, obviously a wide receiver, a stud like he is. I still consider him the best wide receiver in the game. Obviously, the numbers aren't going to be there, but in terms of route running, in terms of breaking down defenders, I don't think there's a wide receiver better still um, than Devontae Adams. Are there other ones that come close? Of course. This is the NFL. Everyone's skilled. Everyone's got potential. I really like what I saw from Brock Bowers. He's one of those. He gets loose, man. I mean, and what I mean by that is he can create. He has the wiggle like Kelsey, where it's a easy flow, get open. You don't know if he's going left or right. It doesn't have to be so serious and when everyone runs routes and no, it's just smooth. It's nonchalant. Still gets open, makes catches. I like him. He's really good. Um, Obviously, the biggest hole that people could say in the Raiders right now is that quarterback, and that man just went 30 or 38 on the Ravens. Had a good day in terms of production. It's not the greatest. I mean, they don't let him bombs away down the field. Um, but it was a good game. But man, when I look at this game, I just feel like the Ravens had it in the palm of their hands, and they just slowly just started flicking out and just, I don't, never mind. And that is the problem I have with the way that the offense is looking. And I said it last week. Todd Monken has to figure it out. Todd Monken has to get things flowing. You had a whole off season. Hell, your first week one was a Thursday night football game. You had more than 7 days of actual NFL film to look at and say, how can I get Derrick Henry to be in better positions? How can I get him to move the chains at a more efficient rate? What things can we do with the way that we're forming these gaps for him to run through? You had more than 7 days, and it looked like you just kept the same game plan and said it's going to work. And Tom Monken, this is no longer college. This is the NFL, where every position is skilled, and you got to figure it out. You gotta, because as time goes on and as things become more frustrating, with maybe not just L's but production of guys like Lamar, of guys like Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, as when production gets staggered somewhere, players are gonna start feeling it, and they're gonna start getting a little bit angsty of like, hey man, what's going on? Where's my touches going? What are we running here? I mean, Lamar Jackson is not afraid to say when play call is terrible. We've seen him say it in the past with past play callers that he's had on the Ravens. You don't want to be that guy. But also Lamar has to buy in, and I think he is. I think he only had like 5 rush attempts. I can double check in the game. Player stats, Ravens. Yeah, Lamar only had 5 carries for 45 yards. You can live with that. I think Lamar is buying in. 5 carries, 45 yards. Threw for 34 times. Completed, I think, 21 of his 34 passes. He had a good game. Obviously, he had a bad pick, but it looks like he's buying into the system of, I don't have to take off every time that something's not open. I have a check down. I have somebody that's open, whatever the case may be. He's buying into it, but that also has, in order for him to continue to buy into it, it has to result in wins. And when the schemes are looking too predictable, it's a formula for failure. Hopefully they get it going, but Ravens start off the year 0-2, not a good look. They need to bounce back. For one, they have the Cowboys, which the Cowboys just got annihilated by the Saints. So you're going into that game feeling pretty good, even though it's in Jerry World. Still feeling pretty good. And then you got the Bills now. the week after, and then the Bengals. So these next 3 games, we're talking about potential 2-1, 1-3, or 0-3. The only way I see it happening. Um, the Bills are playing good football right now. Josh Allen is cooking. The Cowboys obviously want to win. The Bengals obviously need to win, and who knows what they're going to be in 2 more weeks, what their record is going to look like, and how much pressure is going to be on them to win. So the Ravens got to figure it out now because this thing could get ugly real quick. This season could get atrocious in a heartbeat. Um, so they have to beat the Cowboys, beat the Bills, and then probably be in a nail biter with Joe B. So we'll see what happens. But Ravens, Tom Monken, got to figure it out.